All right, you're chief.
What was that, Tarek?
You're the host.
Okay. Let me get the participant list up then.
So you can mute everybody now.
Okay. Everyone is muted, but I will call our meeting to order. We have our February 14th, 2022 meeting. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Let me do this. There we go. No one needs to see the mess behind me. That can be blurred out. So we will start with our council activity reports. I don't have any committee meetings. I did join the rest of the council at the League of Minnesota Cities conference the weekend before last. That was good. I have some things that we brought back from that. Some ideas that we have for our retreat and stuff like that, some things that we might be able to implement that way where we can make some good change. Otherwise, I think it was a pretty interesting seminar. Covered some things that we'd certainly learned before, but also heard some new things, so that was good. There's what I'm looking for. Additionally, I did attend a school board meeting last week where the school board considered an employee grievance. While that meeting was public, I don't think it's relevant or necessary for me to repeat the grievances and the allegations here. I went to the meeting because I was invited to be there. I didn't know what the allegations were at the time, and I didn't know what the grievance was prior to the meeting. Just to be clear, although I was there, invited as mayor, the city takes no position on the issues at that meeting. And I think I speak probably for all of us when I say we support our teachers, but we also support those making the decisions on our school board. So I was glad to be there and learn more about what was going on, but do not take any type of an issue on those issues. So the issues affect our community, but it's a school-related issue, and the city's not going to be involved in that or take any sort of positions on it. So that's my report. With that, I'll turn it to Councilmember Hertzberg.
The only thing I had was the LMC meetings at Plymouth, and I thought they were very good, and I was glad to be back in person at the meetings.
Councilmember Sliney.
Yep, just the LMC meetings in Plymouth is all I have.
Dean, weren't you also at the chamber event?
Oh yeah, well yeah, I was. I was there. I got an award.
Well, thank you for going there on behalf of the rest of us. We were going to go, and then the kid was sick, so that didn't work out. But thanks for being there. So someone from the city was present, Gene.
Yep.
All right, Councilmember Brick.
I don't think she's on.
I'm here. Can you see me?
Oh, no. There she is.
All right. I attended the League of Minnesota Cities Elected Leaders Conference in Plymouth as well. I had a park and tree board meeting. We discussed a lot of things, but I think the main one was that matching grant possibility to build a shelter in Ampi Park. I attended a law enforcement job fair with the chief and with Officer Hokinson and met with some possible candidates who will be graduating this year. And I also attended the school board meeting that the mayor did as well. And that's it for me.
Councilmember Thielen.
Oh, it's just the League of Minnesota Cities Elected Leader Conference. It was very worthwhile. Had a lot of people, got a lot of good ideas, and can't wait to start to throw some ideas back to see if any of those ideas can be implemented into our city.
Thank you. I forgot to mention that I was also invited last week to read to a group of third graders at the school, so I did that. And just for the record, they all asked for my autograph, and then they asked if I had a limo. So now we know how I'm supposed to be greeted from here on out. No, I just, of course. All right. On to our department head reports. Mr. Mergen.
All right, thank
All right, thank you. First of all, just to extend a little bit, we did have the park board meeting, and I believe there will be 4 items coming to the next meeting. Reservations at the parks are still open. We are getting quite a fair number of them at this time for this time of year. In the water department, for the 2021 billing, we did bill out 199 million gallons compared to 2020 was 197 million and 2019 173. So we're roughly about 20 million over that 19 mark, and that is strictly due to the drought and dry weather we did see in 20 and 21. Over on the wastewater end of things, in 2021 we billed out 230 million gallons compared to in 2020 it was 215 million, and in 2019 it was 208 million gallons. Okay, and over at the airport, the fly-in is now scheduled for the air show for August the 27th. That did change a couple times there, but that's the date we have now. I ask residents to please continue to check your water temperatures. If it does hit that 37, 38, please give us a call down here and start running your water. And again, to residents, please clean your sidewalks if you do have them. This time of year especially, it does get icy out there. All right, thank you.
Ron, have we seen a huge response to the survey?
Thanks for reminding me, yes. We do have at this time about 125 people that did respond. So I'd like to remind residents again, yes, please, if you have not responded, your information is welcome and it is needed.
Hertzberg.
Here we go. I forgot on my report, we did have a Public Works meeting before this meeting. Discussed a lot, quite a bit on the improvements that need to be done to the new city shop. Talked about our irrigation with the farmers and what's going on there and the salt problem that they have. Ron, if there's a few more, but I think that was the highlights, and some will come the next meeting, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ron? Okay, I don't see any. All right. You're on mute, sir.
All right. I was just in the Public Works meeting as well, and with everybody at the LMT conference in Plymouth, weekend before last. And then also we had the police and fire meeting and park and tree meeting as well. 2 additional items here. Ron, Chuck, and I, we also had a chance to pitch our grant application to the Regional Transportation Alternative. This is a grant application for the trail extension that we have been working on. So we had a chance to pitch it to the board, and we will be waiting to hear the results. I'm not sure when their timeline is on that yet. And then finally, Megan mentioned that she went with Chief Paul to the school in Alexandria. Paul and I had a chance to interview 4 candidates last week, and then we are going to be interviewing some additional applicants for the police department position in the next week. So we'll have an update for that in the coming council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Tarek? I don't see any. We move on then to the approval of our consent agenda, which includes the minutes listed there from the meetings on page 1, the vouchers on page 2 totaling $311,123.25, along with attending at some workshops, conferences, and other training events. Mr. Hertzberg.
Yes, before I make the motion, the wastewater that Ron Mergen is going to, I'm wondering if 2 people shouldn't go. There's an awful lot on the agenda, on water and waste.
Well, let's pull that off of the consent agenda and add that as letter G under new business, and we can talk about it there.
And the same for the meetings coming up, LMC, Safety and Lost, and the MCIOA. There's an awful lot on there. The LMC emergency preparedness, which would probably involve you now as being in that slot. So I'm just wondering if more people, like that one's only $20 a person, and there's police stuff and park stuff, that maybe more people should be going.
Well, let's take those three off of the consent agenda. We'll combine them under new business, letter G. And then, so we'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda that just includes the minutes and the vouchers, and we'll talk about trainings later under new business.
Thank you.
That's worthwhile.
So made.
Motion's made by Hertzberg. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Soini. Okay, any further discussion? Yeah, we'll call the vote. Hertzberg.
Yes.
Soini.
Yes.
Brick.
Aye.
Thielen.
Aye.
It's an aye for me. That does carry unanimously. Thank you, everyone. On to new business under the debt management study. Normally we let our guests go first, but Jessica loves us so much she asked to be last. I jest only because I know you would take the joke, Jessica.
Of course, I would wait.
No. Let's talk debt.
All right. Mayor, Council, good evening. Jessica Green with Northland Securities. Here tonight to talk to you a bit about, or review with you the city's outstanding debt. I'm going to go back and see exactly where this starts in your agenda. So it starts, staff memo is 29, so it'll start on page 30. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, just being that we reviewed this information, I think it was at the tail end of 2020, like many people the last couple of years are kind of running together. But that being said, I think that we're probably about 14 months since the time that we last looked at this, and being that the city has not issued any debt since the spring of 2020, the information here really hasn't changed since the last time it was reviewed by the council. Really what we're seeing is some declining numbers, and that's just due to the fact that we've had some of the debt retiring with regularly scheduled principal and interest payments. So start off by looking at that first page of that information. Again, I believe it starts on page 30. So that first page, what you're seeing there is really just sort of a combined statement related to everything that the city has outstanding related to debt that we're aware of. If you've done any sort of private placements or things that have happened outside of Northland being involved, that would not be reflected here. That being said, I don't believe that there is anything that the city's done privately that we're not aware of. So kind of the way to look through this is left to right. So when you're seeing fiscal levy year, that means the year that the city would actually set the levy. So in 2021, you would have set the levy for 22. That'll make those payments principal and interest-wise. And really from there, what you're seeing across the board is you're seeing the principal amount. And again, this is the compiled balance. So this is across all of the debt that the city has outstanding. Some interest there, your total payments. From there, the outstanding debt column, that is the amount owed after those payments. So currently what the city has outstanding is $11,942,000. After those payments in 22 are made, you'll have just shy of $11 million outstanding. Assuming that no other debt is issued in the next many years, what we're seeing here is that after the payments made in 2034, the city would be debt-free. Then, going again, still moving from left to right, you've got your principal and interest subject to tax levy, and that reflects the full amount of the principal and interest payments that are required of the city. Reason being here is that all of the debt that the city has outstanding is subject to the city's general obligation pledge. Now, from there we add an additional 5% that is due to state statute. Statute requires that you have 105% of the upcoming debt service payment in your debt service fund prior to it being due. So that's why you're seeing that number come up a bit. That extra 5% is due to the fact that you will likely experience some level of delinquency when your property taxes are being paid. So statute adds that additional 5% just to make sure that you're getting at least 100% of what you need for those debt service payments. From there, we subtract off any special assessments. Those are typically occurring related to street improvement bonds. You've got some support coming from the sanitary sewer, the water, and the storm sewer, so your utilities. Then you've got a column here for other revenues. We'll talk about this in a couple of slides here, but really what this is related to is AMPI. We're calling this out separately because that's sort of a separate deal here for the city. And then from there, you've got your net tax levy. So that's taking all of that information together, subtracting it out from what's related to and subject to the tax levy, and just giving you the net levy. This is what you would be certifying each and every year. And then just adding that up for the total sources of funds. Unless anybody has any questions on this first sort of compiled page, we'll kind of move into the individual outstanding debt issues for the city. So going on to that next page, these first two are going to be related to the utilities. You've got two notes that were issued in 2013. This first one being the general obligation sewer revenue note. I believe this was financed with PFA, or the Public Facilities Authority through the state. Again, issued in 13. Just some detail that we keep in here related to the project, so financing a lift station, rehabbing a pond system, etc. Original issue amount here was $3,069,736. What's outstanding currently is $1,889,000. The PFA loans can be called in at any time. Obviously, with this being just shy of $1.9 million, likely not going to be paid off anytime soon, but you do, of course, have the ability to pay that off early should you want to do that. Final maturity here is that first that says 1932. That is not correct. It's 2032. We'll make that update in the next review that we do for the city. The next one is the other PFA note that was issued in 13. This is related to the water system. So the issuance amount here was $3.6 million and some change. Outstanding, what you've got is $2,273,000. Final maturity here is 2033. The next one is an improvement issue. So this would have financed the 2014 street improvement project. This one was issued for $840,000. What you've got left here is $270,000. This one just passed its call date on December 1st of 2021. What that means is that the city could call in these bonds at this point. So if you wanted to pay off these bonds in whole or in part, you could do that. And when I say that, that means you could certainly just pay off a single maturity, two maturities. So maybe that's something that you look at doing after you make that 22 payment. But again, outstanding principal here is $270,000. It's a pretty low interest rate on this one. So 2% on the 22 maturity and then 2.5%. So let's just say that, for example, you wanted to pay that off now. You'd be saving less than this $13,000 in interest. So you got to weigh whether or not you want to part with the cash if you are thinking about calling these in. Again, not accruing a whole lot of interest, but certainly if you did pay those off, there would be some savings there. Going on to the 16 issue, so the 2016 street improvement project was financed with the 16A bond. Total issuance amount here was $1,350,000. 705 is outstanding. The call date on this one is December 15th of 2024. Again, low interest rates on this one, so 2%. Obviously, you have a couple years before you hit the call date, but nice interest rate on that issuance. The following is related to the 17A bonds. That was another street improvement project. Also, Lake Avenue North was included there. $760,000 was the total issuance amount. $475 remains, and then you've got a call date out here in 25. Another really nice interest rates. You can see 1.7 on the 22 and 23 maturities, and then 2%, and then kind of rounding things out at 2.2. And then 2 issuances in 19. So the first one was the 19A issue, and this one financed the expansion project for Ampi. So this is that one where I pointed out in the beginning that we've got some other revenues being dedicated here. So total issuance here was 2.4. We've got $2,135,000 outstanding. And you'll see in the sources of funds for the debt service payment, so we're showing the principal and interest subject to tax levy, because that, again, is a general obligation bond. But we're not showing any sort of support coming from special assessments, the utilities, et cetera. We're covering those all under those other revenues. And this is really just designed to show that AMPI is responsible for the debt payment here, and it is not at all hitting the tax levy for the city, or the utility funds for that matter. The second issue in 19 was the 19B series. So there was a street improvement project. This is a larger project for the city than some of the other improvement issues that we saw or reviewed just moments ago. So this issuance amount here, $3.98 million. So a rather sizable project. 3.545 remains outstanding. Call date here isn't until 27, but again, just given sort of the scope of that project, certainly not anticipating that the city is going to be working to pay that off anytime soon. Let's see, and then the last one we've got here is a smaller issuance that we did back in 2020. This was to finance some land related to the sewer utility. This one was done as a private placement with one of the local banks. Total issuance amount here, $716,000. $650 remains, so not a huge jump down for that one, but again, just issued back in 2020. Call date here is December 15th of 27. And so then from there, we've just got a couple of graphs for you showing sort of the tax levy by year. You can see you've got a couple of little bumps going from 22 up to 24. So you're going to go from about 299 up to about 315. And then you're going to start to see some relief. This assumes that no additional debt is issued by the city. But you're going to drop from 315 down to 280. And then in 27, you'll see a pretty significant drop there, about 100,000 coming off. And then another drop in 28. And then this climbs a little bit over time. Reason being is just how the assessment revenue comes in. Not significant jumps per year, but just something to be aware of. And then, again, as we talked about on that first slide, after 2034, currently there is no additional debt for the city. And then we broke this out by the utility funds. You can see the sanitary sewer debt by year remains pretty steady. You've got a little bit of relief coming in 25, again in 27, not significant drops. But then we come down quite a bit in 31, and again in 23, and then out of there by 2034. Water debt, pretty similar situation, rather level. You see a little bit of relief coming in a few of those years, dropping down to that final one in 2034, and then nothing after that. And then this final sheet that we've got, and I'm just going to zoom in here because it's very small. But what you're seeing here is just the refunding analysis. And so we look at the city's debt on just about a quarterly basis to see if there's anything worth sort of mentioning to the city about whether or not you might consider refunding. And this was the same situation when we looked at this back in 2020. There's really not any good options for the city. That's due to the fact that the city has some really nice interest rates on your debt currently. So we are in a very low interest rate environment, but as you can see, I mean, the yields on these bonds are already very low. So to overcome the cost of any sort of cost of issuance, et cetera, just wouldn't make any sense to take these out at this point. We do have that noted on the 2014 that you could consider doing a cash call. If you do have some cash flow away and you really want to pay off some of this debt early, you could certainly do that. The others after the 2014, so the 16, 17, 19, and 20 issues, all have not met the point of their call date, so those would have to be issued as taxable bonds. And with that, just really not any savings there to be seen at this time. We will continue to monitor those and certainly alert the city if it seems to make sense. But from the sound of things, our interest rates are moving in the opposite direction. So given what we're seeing here with the rates that the city currently has, I think you're in a good position. So that will conclude the debt review, but I am certainly happy to take any questions that anyone has, talk about any future projects, etc. If you've got questions overall in the market, happy to answer those.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Jessica? Neil?
Yes, and I believe this is kind of what has come up in our discussion before. Basically, we probably shouldn't bond for a new project till 27. Is that correct?
Well, it depends. So if you go back to, I'm going to point you to page 39 of your packet. So you've got some room kind of coming in 25. So if you were going to issue, you could probably say 23, because you could essentially jump 1 year to when your principal is going to start. So that would likely come in 25. Now, the other thing that you can do is if you know that you've got some debt relief coming in a significant fashion, like you're seeing from that drop to 26 and 27, you could structure new bonds around your outstanding debt so that you're not seeing a lot of upward pressure on the debt levy. So you could say, okay, Northland, we've got a project that we're going to take on in 23, but we really don't want that debt service levy to see a lot of increase. We could structure smaller principal payments in 25 and 26 and then sort of wrap it around the other debt from 27 and on. So if there are projects where you know that you're not able to delay, then you can work on some creative structuring. You don't have to do level principal and interest like you would with, say, a mortgage or a car payment. You can structure that however you'd like to.
Well, time will tell, but I guess I'd feel real comfortable if we waited till 27.
Sure.
Just a comment.
Thank you, Neil. Did you have anything else? I see you muted. I'm going to assume no. Anybody else have any questions for Jessica? Well, thank you for joining us and for laying this all out here again. As always, it was very informative, and I appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks, everyone. I hope you have a good meeting.
Thank you.
Bye.
Feel free to stick around. All right.
I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks. Moving on to the resignation of a part-time maintenance worker. Ron, can you tell us or just introduce this?
Yes, Mark Shaneberg has resigned from our part-time public works position, and he was an excellent employee, and we wish him well in his retirement. And I guess with that, we are looking to hire a new person, and I would recommend that we start the advertising process.
Okay, so with that, we'll start with, we're looking for a motion to accept the resignation of Mark Shaneberg. Neil. Oh, you're muted, Neil. I'm going to assume that you're making a motion, though.
I'll make the motion to accept the resignation of Mark.
Okay, I have a motion by Hertzberg. Megan.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second by Megan. Any further discussion on that? Jean, I see your hand is up.
No.
Okay. All right, no further discussion. I'll call the roll. Neil.
Aye.
Jean.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Paul. Aye. And it's an aye from me. That does carry. Then we're looking for a motion to start the hiring process. Neil.
One question before I make the motion. Ron, is this the part-time, full-time position?
Yes, that is correct. This runs from roughly April 1st through November. 4 days a week, 32 hours per week.
Right. That's what I thought. And with that, I'll make the motion to fill the part-time, full-time position that Mark vacated.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Gene.
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion on that? I have a second by Gene. Okay. Call the vote. Neil.
Aye.
Gene.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. The motion to start the hiring process does approve. All right. And the resignation of a full-time police officer, Chief Wagner.
Thank you. As expected or anticipated, Officer Haig has taken a position with the Cold Spring Police Department. We kind of expected that this was going to be coming. We wish him well over there. His desire was to hopefully have an agency with a little more opportunity, which is why he has left. At this point, we're just looking for acceptance of his resignation. We've already been in the process of hiring, so there's no need to look for that.
Okay, so at this point, we're looking for a motion to accept the resignation. Otherwise, if anyone has any questions or comments for the chief, Megan.
I'll move to accept the resignation of Alton Haig, full-time police officer, effective January 14th, 2022.
You mean February 14th?
February 14th.
February, yes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
I second it.
Sorry, Paul, I saw Gene's hand first. So I have a motion to accept the resignation of Alton Haig, effective February 14. Motion by Brick, seconded by Soini. Any further discussion on that? Okay. Call the vote. Neil.
I wish him all the best, and with that, my vote is aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
It's an aye for me. That does carry. Before we move on, Tarek, in your weekly email, you said that Paul would be talking about, and by Paul I mean Chief Wagner, about temporary staffing solutions. Chief, can you talk a little bit about that?
I'm not, yeah, I don't know if you're ready for it, Paul, if you want to mention it now, or you want to mention it next council meeting, up to you.
I can briefly discuss it now. There'll probably be something a little more formal come the 28th. We have reached out to the sheriff's office to inquire about potentially hiring some of their full-time deputies to come in here on a part-time basis to assist. The sheriff and I have come to kind of an agreement on that. He's okay with that, as long as the city understands that if any of the officers' equipment is damaged while working here, that the city would pay for it. I explained to him that, you know, if that were the case, we certainly would be if they were our employee. I looked at this, you know, I kind of looked at this from a bunch of different angles, and, you know, I like the concept of bringing them in as our employees. That way we have the control over kind of what they're doing. We set the expectations versus doing a contract, and the cost should be significantly less if we need to use them. A lot of this will be determined based on any potential future openings or needs. Also reached out to a couple other individuals, some who've just retired, and others who used to work for the agency. I reached out to Carter Lunch to see if he was interested. He's going to be speaking with his chief. He has expressed interest in coming back and assisting if we need help, as well as a former deputy that just recently retired and is now doing some property management. So we've got a group right now of probably 4 additional people that we'll be discussing more on the 28th to assist in filling shifts if need be.
You and I had talked about me and Tarek sitting down with the sheriff and talking about contracting, and I'm just curious why we never did that.
I'm not a huge fan of contracting.
So why didn't we sit down and talk about it?
Because we never set a meeting. I'm not interested in paying $60 to $70 an hour and having no control over the staff. The city has seen what we've gotten in the past with contracting with them. I appreciate their assistance and I appreciate their willingness to assist. But the city, I believe, is in a much better position if we are hiring their staff on versus contracting their services.
Yeah, I did talk to Paul about this, and I also thought that the idea of talking about doing a contract, even if we were to get, I would say, a good pricing on a contract, I felt it would be better if we have people that are actually our employees versus a contract, and then it's a matter of trying to monitor and make sure they're abiding by the terms of the agreement versus having an employee here where, you know, they have scheduled hours, et cetera, and you can manage that process better. So from a cost benefit, it's cheaper this way, and then from an effectiveness, I thought this was more effective.
That may all be well and fine, but we had talked, and there was an agreement that we would sit down and discuss this with the sheriff, and that never happened. So in the future, we should just talk about that before making these decisions and changing plans. Neil.
On, excuse me, on the part-time deputies, the pay scale to be the same that we're paying our part-time police right now?
That would be discussed, and like I said, we'll have something a little more formal. We just sent out the inquiry to any of the deputies today to see if anybody's even interested, so we can bring a more formal plan to the council in 2 weeks.
Because I'm just concerned, if you're going to pay them more, you almost have to give ours a raise. I don't think you should have two different scales for part-time police.
I would think they'd have to be brought on at the same contracted rate, and they would have to know that when they apply. They wouldn't be getting paid their county dollars.
It would be based on our pay scale, and from what I understand, based on their years of experience. But it'll be our pay scale.
Thank you. We'll move on to the youth safety camp. Ron.
All right, thank you. Yes, from Stearns County, we did have a request here to have them or let them utilize the airport area for a youth safety camp. And I guess what they do out there, first of all, they have roughly between 20 to 40 kids out there, and there's a wide range of safety activities. The fire department, I understand, will also be out there doing some interactive fire suppression. Lifeline's going to fly in and give a presentation also. Just from looking at it, I guess I would see no reason not to approve it. It looks like a well-planned day, and I think our facility would suit them very well.
The only question I have is, are we going to run into any issues with the FAA because of this?
As far as I understand, no, that they would not be interfering with FAA, and I think they would, being it's part of its aviation related, they would welcome it.
Good deal. Paul Phelan.
Yeah, my question is, has this happened out at the airport before?
No, this has not been, this is the first time it will be at the Paynesville airport. Obviously, I think they've been moving it around the county, or mostly in St. Cloud, obviously, or Sauk Center.
Oh, if you have a follow-up to that, go ahead.
Yeah, just one question would be if, because of other instances where things have happened on city property, would there need to be an insurance binder on this in case something happens out there?
Bill, did you want to answer that one?
I mean, I'm sure that the Stearns County Sheriff's Department has good insurance. I don't know the details, but they're running this, correct, Ron? Stearns County Sheriff?
That is correct.
I wouldn't be worried about a lack of insurance coverage.
I'm just trying to make sure that we're covered.
Neil.
Anything for youth I'm in favor of. With that, I'll make the motion to allow Stearns County Sheriff's Department to use the airport property for a youth safety camp on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022 from 7 to 4. 4 p.m.
I have a motion by Neil as stated on the action sheet. Paul?
I'll second that motion.
I have a second by Thielen. Any further discussion on that? I will just join in Neil's comments, but I'm also in favor of anything that's going to support our youth. So with that, I'll call the vote. Neil?
Aye.
Gene? Gene, you're muted, but I think I saw an aye. Was that an aye?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And it's an aye from me. That does carry. Thank you, everyone. All right. Tarek, can you talk to us about the Chamber of Commerce membership?
Yeah, I consulted Bill Spooner on this as well, but we were asked before by the Chamber why we're not members and why we can't join, and giving references to other cities that have joined their Chamber of Commerce. But looking back and consulting with Bill, who also looked at some previous statutes, it's not recommended that we join. However, if I were to join as an individual, that's possible, or if the city were to give a donation or support a particular function there, that would be appropriate. But for us to join as city membership, from what I understood, that's not advisable. And I don't know, Bill, if you want to add anything else to that.
No, the only thing I would add is that I noticed in the correspondence from Mr. Bertram that he later, notes that other cities have EDAs who have joined their chambers, and EDAs do have more latitude and could join. I don't know, whether the EDA would be interested in joining and whether the council feels it would be appropriate or why, beneficial. But the EDA does have more latitude and could join, but the city cannot, in my opinion.
Okay. I'm just going to give my comment before I forget. Tarek, I think it would make sense for us to pay for a membership for you in your role as economic director.
Yes.
To say that.
Yep.
Neil, you have a comment or a question?
Yes, how much are the dues?
I think when I joined as a business a couple of years ago, it was like $50 a year. It wasn't excessive.
Yeah, I think it's $100.
Maybe it's that much. Okay.
Okay, so at the end of the day, and I'm guilty, we talked about it, and the chamber had their gala, and I believe Gene was the only one that was there, and we probably all should have been there, and it's something we should really think long and hard on for next year. And any of us can join as an individual, and I am going to do that because I do support the chamber and the good they do for the town. And I'll make the motion that we pay for Tarek's membership out of EDAP funds if that's okay.
Thank you. Gene?
Well, I can second that motion, but my only comment is it was brought forth many years ago, too, because the city used to be a member, and then the auditors and the city attorney told us we shouldn't do it. So our administrators always joined on their own.
That was a question that I had talked about with Jennifer earlier, and we weren't sure of the answers if the city had been a member in the past. So
Yes.
Thanks for clarifying, Gene, that we had been and then it was flagged. But as of right now, I have a motion from Neil, seconded by Gene, to pay for the city administrator's membership in the Chamber of Commerce using EDAP funds. Do I have any other discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, I will call a vote on that. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And it's an aye from me. Okay, anything further to discuss on that? Okay.
Oh, I did have one comment.
Yes.
I believe it's a business membership's $100, but the minimum. But I think an individual membership's like $35 or $50. But I'm not positive. That might have changed.
It's reasonable in any event.
It is very.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then, letter F on our agenda, the AMPI sewer rates. Tarek, can you talk to us about this?
Yeah. Late last year, sometime in early December, we noticed that there was an issue with our sewer billing revenue. It wasn't matching up to what we were projecting. Doing some research into it, we found out that we've been underbilling AMPI for sewer rates. We looked into it further, and we found out that whether it was sewer and water, if it is only sewer, and we went back to see how far back this goes and what was the cause of this. And this goes back approximately 10 years, and the reason why this happened was back in 2009, 2010, there was a software conversion or switchover, and when the new system was implemented, AMPI ended up having its own account or own ledger on the system, meaning that annually, because everybody, businesses and residential in the city pay the same rate. So whenever you change the rate, it should automatically go up for everybody. That was the case except for AMPI sewer rates, which had not gone up for that period of time. So over the years, the underbilling accumulated, and it got to a point last year where it was definitely noticeable. So we had approached AMPI on this, and we explained to them what the issue was, and we're at the point now, and I mean, we can get into more discussion and more details based on what questions you have on this, but we're at the point now where we're trying to kind of come to a resolution or conclusion where AMPI settles some of this or the outstanding amount where we can proceed.
Tarek, my understanding is that you mentioned that this was a coding error, and I was just sort of confused as to how that happened. And my understanding is that every year these price adjustments are made in the system, and then a report is run and double-checked to make sure that everything is current. But because of the coding error, we might have the 100 different entries that get changed and checked, but this one thing doesn't show up on that report. And unfortunately, that's how it was missed for a period of time. Is that right?
Yeah, it wasn't showing up because it was the only entity that was not on there, and for some reason it was only the sewer, not the water. Okay. So when we'd go in and change the rate every year, it would automatically reflect on everybody's businesses as well as residential, except for the AMPI sewer rate. That's how it was entered into the system.
And over the period of time that this has occurred, how much have they been undercharged?
Well, when we went back to, let's see here, 2011 was when the first underbilling took place. Obviously, it starts off slowly because when you're on, say, for example, on 2010, if your billing rate is $2 per thousand, the next year you're going to raise it by 10 cents. Well, the first year you may not notice it because that 10 cents is not going to be a significant amount. However, as you raise your sewer rates over the years, it becomes more noticeable. So over the past 10 years, the underbilling for AMPI has been $1.423 million with an amount of $247,000 in change for the year of 2021, which is the year it was caught.
What has AMPI proposed as a settlement to this?
AMPI is proposing that we, and this is something that Ron and I discussed with them, and both Ron and I feel like this is a good way to proceed forward, is that we settle up the 2021 charges, which is the year where the error was caught. So they settle up the $247,000 and change, and they do so within this year, so within this current billing year. What this will do, and if I explain a little bit more here, what this has done over the years, it not so much has affected individuals or other businesses' sewer rates going up. When we went back and we did some math and we calculated how much the increase would have been, for example, the bulk of the underbilling happened in the past 5 years. If we were to see how much the rate increases that we applied over the past 5 years affected residents, it came out to be about an average of $39 or $40 over the 5-year period. So roughly $8 per year per residential billing. However, what it did affect was the reserve we had on hand. So our reserve balance has went down, and that's what has affected more than the amount of rates that we were increasing. So right now, if ANPI were to settle the outstanding amount of $247,000, it would give us a nice cushion in our reserve balance. And of course, our reserve balance is primarily, or not primarily, but one of the main uses of it is to pay the bond payment.
How far back can we go to collect on this if we wanted to?
I consulted with Bill Spooner, who did some background research. Maybe you can add some more into it, Bill, but my understanding is 6 years is the statute of limitations.
That's correct.
Paul, I see your hand is up. Are you okay waiting just a second if I have a few more questions?
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks. So if we go back, I realize that it's sort of exponential growth over the last however many years. But if we go back those 5 or 6 years, I mean, are we talking like $700,000-800,000?
If you go back for, let's see here, the 6 years, we're looking at roughly 1.1 million. Oh, sorry. I'll add it up quickly here and I'll tell you.
1.147 million.
For the, no, not that. For the 9 years, I'm thinking for the 6 years.
And then, Bill, maybe you can chime in on this as well, but what rights do we have? I mean, if we want to say, you know, you were underbilled, we should have known about this, we're going back, we want payment for those last 6 years. Do they have to pay it right away? Do they have to have a period of time? How does that work?
I didn't look at this real close right before the meeting tonight, but my recollection is that we have to give them the same period of time to repay it that we back charge for. So they would have, I believe, 6 years to pay back 6 years of bills.
And then I assume, Bill, that also opens us up for some sort of litigation contesting the amount.
I'd be surprised if there wasn't, you know, some argument about it. You know, I mean, but there's some good case law on situations where there's an error in the meter. This seems analogous, but it also is different. I mean, I understand the difference here, where, you know, where we were sending them bills, literally not just a meter reading that we were relying on. We were sending them bills. The metering was correct. So it is a little bit different than the cases that are out there. But I mean, I think the statute of limitations is solidly 6 years. There's no question about that. The issue is just whether the fact that we misbilled it as opposed to some kind of a mechanical error in a meter, whether that makes any difference. You know, it's a question that, as far as I know, has not been litigated in Minnesota. So I can't say that I know the answer for sure, but it seems like a very similar situation to me, to the case that is out there.
It's safe to say this could potentially have us tied up in litigation for a few years with attorney's fees that go along with that time.
I would be shocked if that didn't happen.
My concern with that, though, and I mean, Ron, Belinda, and I all looked at the reserves that we have. I mean, my concern is, and I hope that we find a solution that we can all agree on without going to litigation. But if it came down to that, you know, our reserves are already low, and I'd rather come to a conclusion and replenish the reserves and move on versus drag this out and have to dip into further reserves or reserves we don't have, hoping that I don't know how long down the line we finally can reach an agreement and then find out what kind of payment plan we can agree to at that point. So, I mean, timing is one thing, but then also cost is another thing. And then just to let everybody know that this error was corrected, so the billing for the last month of the year and of course going forward has all been corrected. So it's the last time that they received a bill that was lower than it should have been is November 2021.
And then, Tarek, I have to ask you, we can't get into any specifics, but I know that this was an error. You said that billing has been corrected. As city administrator, have you taken whatever action you think is appropriate to remedy this, which may or may not include any type of discipline to the employees who maybe should have caught this?
Yes.
Okay, so that's dealt with and done?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so the last thing I'm going to share, because I suspect that somebody's going to want to know, or somebody may already be trying to talk about this. Ampi's annual report has them earning $1.8 billion in sales in 2020, with $19 million in total profits. This is from their public annual report that they have listed and posted on their website. And out of the $19.2 million, Tarek is proposing they repay $247,000. But arguably we could go a little bit more. So with that, Paul, I thank you for yielding some time to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've did a little research on this with the League of Minnesota Cities, and Asia Davis is one of their staff attorneys, and had emailed me a link to the issues like this that have come up in the past. And on one of them here, it says mistakes in billing, and under Minnesota State Statute 541.05, in general, even where a meter is inaccurate or defective, the city utility may recoup the undercharges. And then right below that, there's a case law that shows Northern States Power versus Lion Food Products, where something similar to this, it was a utility that was electric, ours is water and sewer, where there's case law that shows that there's a lawsuit brought by Northern States Power was affirmed. It also does say that we can only go back 6 years. So those 4 or 5 years that it looks like that we can't go back, the city of Paynesville is going to have to absorb those losses. That's where I think the losses should stop. We need to give them 6 years, AMPI 6 years to pay this off, then so be it. But if we only ask for $247,000 just last year's, we're going to have a lot of residents that are going to ask the question, why didn't you go for all of it? This may be litigated. I don't believe it's going to cost the $900,000 that we would be forgiving if we just collected the $247,000 from last year. I believe we should squeeze the AMPI a little bit, let them know that we mean business. We're not going to succumb to a deal like that, because once we start doing it for one business, we're going to potentially have to do it for them all. And that's why I believe that we should start the process of billing them for the last 6 years and taking it from there, because with my discussion with Tarek earlier today, their counteroffer was laughable at best. And Tarek, I don't know if you want to comment on that at all, get a little more specific, but again, I would pursue going for the total, the $1.1 million, and do it in over the 6 years' time. Obviously, they make a profit to handle this. So, anyways, all right, thanks. I'm done.
Hey, Paul, any other comments? I will say I've gone back and forth on this quite a bit since Tarek first brought the issue to my attention. My initial inclination was to say, well, negotiate what you think we can and make a recommendation to council. But the more I look at that earnings report, the more inclined I am to say they're not going anywhere. They've got enough money. But they're also, I think, our number 2 employer behind the hospital. So that needs to be recognized, I think, a little bit as well. Megan, I saw your hand up first.
Yes, I've been back and forth as well because obviously I know that we would like to have more money from the city. Of course we would. But it's a difficult decision, in the Northern City Power versus Lion Food Products case. That was the result, I believe, of a faulty meter as well. And that's not the case here. And I feel like, they were billed and they paid what they were billed for in good faith. And it feels to me a little bit unfair to go back that far when they, and I think that I know that we're considering what other people in town are going to think if we don't go for it, but I feel like, there might be a lot of concern if we do, because then there are businesses out there who are paying their bills on time, and they might be concerned that the same thing is going to happen to them, that there's going to be a mistake, and they're going to owe hundreds and thousands of dollars down the line. I feel like the deal that Tarek and Ron are recommending, that we go after the year that we found it, is fair. But, I know it's something that should probably have some further discussion about. So right now, those are my feelings, that the deal that Ron and Tarek are talking about is probably the most fair.
Thank you. Neil.
Yes, a part of me feels that, like Paul, that it was a mistake and they should pay for a mistake. And another part feels that Ampi has been a very good partner on a lot of projects. We're looking at phase 2 of the wastewater upgrade, and indirectly they're going to be paying the total cost of phase 2. And I don't think we want to tip that our apple cart upside down. So if we can come to a reasonable compromise, I'm not sure the 247 is enough. Maybe we should go back 2.5 or 3 years and see what we can put together and give them 6 years to pay that off. I'm not against that, but I think we need to research this more and not make a decision tonight. And maybe ask we can turn down this offer and ask them if they could reconsider and make us a better offer.
Okay, thank you. Paul, I saw your hand go up next. Then Gene, I see that yours is up too.
Yeah, it's my understanding, and don't quote me on this because I don't have any proof of it, but when I looked on the city, under the property tax, AMPI owns I believe everything south of Railroad Street, but you look on the property tax statements on the map, that is owned by Sioux Line Railroad, and I believe they're under a 99-year lease. So whatever their position is with the building, that's up to them, but I would have to make an educated guess that they're not going to be going anywhere for a while. So that was my thought on that. I mean, I know that they're good for the city, and we got to work hand in hand with them. But I still have that issue of forgiving because we made a mistake. And I don't want to start pointing fingers, but I wish that there would have been at least some sort of training for the people that do the billing on this, to at least have software manual available to them to know where something like this might come up. And I don't want to, like I said, no finger pointing, but I think there has to be weight given on one area more so than the other. Could it be the auditor? Maybe not. Could it be, the company that sold us the software? Was the previous employees trained properly to pass that information on? That's stuff we don't know. That's why there was a mistake in the billing. That's where we're at right now. And I guess that pretty much sums it up for me. Thanks.
I'll just add, it probably wouldn't hurt to have a conversation with Tarek and then everyone else involved in the billing program to hear about what happened and why it happened the way it did. My understanding is that it was buried in something from the initial programming that, given how the annual reports are run, really couldn't have been noticed until there was a specific search for it. So, with that, Gene.
I just want to comment that I kind of agree with Megan that this was our mistake, and they paid their bills in good faith, and I just don't feel like we can go back 6 years. That's just, I mean, it's not their fault. It is our fault. So we have to absorb some of the cost on it. Whatever deal you can work out, I'm in favor of.
Thank you, Gene. Megan?
Do we know, so is that that number we quoted for the earnings, is that AMPI as a whole? That's not just the Paynesville plant, correct?
Correct. That's the corporation.
Okay. I just wanted to double check. I know it's still money that they hold, but I just wondered if that was the case. So thank you.
Yep. Neil.
I guess, what was the figure for 6 years, and do we have a 3-year figure?
Yeah, the 6-year figure is 1.14 million, so 3 years will be half of that. So 500 and some thousand. I can get you exact numbers.
Well, that's fine. Half. 3 is half.
Wouldn't it be a little bit more than half because of the exponential nature?
Yes, because it's exponential, every year rises at a faster rate. For example, in the first year, the underbilling was only 14,000. Last year, because it was the highest rate, was 247,000. So it accelerates.
Okay, then, and this would probably be one for Bill Spooner. The software company, do they have any responsibility if it's their software that messed us up?
Well, I can answer that, I think, and if needed, I can maybe have Belinda jump in and answer a question. But as far as I know, it wasn't a software problem. It was more of whoever was training the employees on it and entering it as a separate entry, that was the problem. I don't know if you want to add anything, Belinda.
From my point of view, if it's a contract claim, 6 years is a statute of limitations. This work was done 10, 11, 12 years ago now. I think we're going to run into a problem unless there'd be some way around the statute of limitations based on discovery of the problem, but it's not obvious to me that we would have a viable claim against the software company at this point.
Okay, thank you.
I believe most likely it was this way in the old system as well, and when it transferred over, it's just handled differently in code. There wasn't a ton of training at the time. Gayla was training me, and InCode was working with us a bit, but we actually had some fairly new people out doing our changeover, and they were more involved with the nuts and bolts of the changeover than they were in the training itself.
Well, I would suggest that we, even if we don't have a resolution, we leave this meeting voting up or down that 247 number. And if we voted down, then we consider coming back to them with a counter.
And yeah, I think when I talk to them about this, they are waiting for us to kind of give them an answer, yes or no, and if it's a no, what our counter proposal would be.
And from my perspective, I mean, I think we're, whether this turns out to be litigation or not, My suggestion would be that you create a committee that does not include a quorum of the council so that you can talk about your approach to this, not in a public forum that Ampi can watch the video of. I think it would be useful if you're in negotiations like this that you figure out a way to form a committee of a couple of council members and some other people that you want involved in the discussion, so that all those discussions don't have to take place in a public forum. You could call it litigation committee or whatever you want to call it, but I think you want to do something like that.
I was going to suggest that we table this for further discussion, and then what Bill explained, he even explained it even better, where we can look at all avenues of what's possible and what's not, and then carry on from there. I don't think we really need to make a decision on anything other than moving forward with it, and especially with what Bill said about getting others involved with this being closed.
But I think if it's clear that the majority of the council doesn't want to accept the $247,000, you could vote on that, I guess. But beyond that, I think we should move this to another setting.
I think that makes sense. Neil?
I think we should call the question.
No motion has been made, so there's no question to call. Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to look at the
Not accept the $247,000.
yeah. Oh, that sounds good. My motion would be not to accept it and to give them a counter proposal.
Okay, so I have a motion by Hertzberg to not accept and to give a counter proposal. Do I have a second? Dean?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Paul, I saw your hand go up.
And if I could offer an amendment that this gets moved to further discussion.
I guess my suggestion would be, if we're going to reject it and negotiate a counter, I like Bill's suggestion of forming an ad hoc committee. And I think that following passage of this motion, we'd be looking for a motion to establish an ad hoc committee to negotiate this.
Or I'm willing to put that as part of my motion if it's approved.
Let's just, to be clean, let's make it two separate motions.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
Okay.
I know Jennifer's trying to take notes, and it gets to be a lot, especially on Zoom, if we have a bunch of amendments. So can I call the question on rejecting the offer, knowing that there will be some sort of counter proposal to come through an ad hoc committee established by a future motion?
Sounds good.
Okay. Neil?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Megan? Megan, I couldn't hear you.
Aye.
Thank you. Paul?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. That motion carries. Jennifer, just did you get a grasp of that motion?
I did.
Okay, great. Okay, then there's talk about forming an ad hoc committee to negotiate this. I guess my suggestion would be, if there's a motion to be made, that it be two members of the council that I can duly appoint. I think I'm ready to appoint them now: city administrator and public works director. would be my proposed makeup of that, unless anybody thinks there should be anyone else.
I can make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Gene. Do we have a second? Neil.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Gene, seconded by Neil, to form an ad hoc committee to try and negotiate this issue with AMPI, consisting of 2 council members, the city administrator, and Ron Mergen. Following that question, Neil.
Aye.
Gene.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Okay. As for council member appointments, I'm going to take the 2 on diametrically opposed opposite sides of this issue here. Paul and Megan, are you willing to serve?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Megan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then with that, I would move to approve the appointment of Paul Thielen and Megan Brick as the council members to the ad hoc committee. Can I get a second to my motion? Megan, is your hand still up for that?
Is mine?
Yeah.
Sure. A second.
Okay. Neil, your hand was up.
I was just going to second. That's okay.
All right. Sorry. Any further discussion on that? Okay. Calling the question. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And it's an aye from me. All right. Jennifer, my notes say 3 different motions there. Did you get all of them?
I believe I did.
Thank you much. And then can you guys meet, confer, and get back to us by our next council meeting with a recommendation? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then I think with that, we're ready to move on. Oh, and moving on means actually going back up to the items in the consent agenda on the trainings. So Neil asked that we sort of remove these to talk about them. And just for those who are new, the reason why we pulled them from the consent agenda is consent doesn't typically involve discussion. They're just things that are approved without it. So where there's something to discuss, we put them under new business. Neil's suggestion was that we increase attendance at these workshops. They're reasonably priced, and that way we can get a little bit more out of them. Neil, were you thinking 2 people at each one? What were your thoughts on that? Go ahead, Neil. Neil, you're muted.
All right, I'll start with the first one, the LMC safety and loss. That's only $20 a person. And when you look at the training, there's admin, police, public works, recreation, and emergency preparedness. So if you look at the people in those areas, Eric, Paul, Ron, and you. And whoever can go at $20 a piece, I highly recommend it.
It looks like that one's in St. Cloud.
Right.
Gene, I see your hand is up.
Well, there's already 2 that are going. Belinda and Jennifer are already asking to be going.
Correct, but when you look at what they're discussing, $20 a piece, I approve Belinda and Jennifer. But, I have no problem with the police chief and Ron, Terry, Sean, if they want to go.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, Megan, your hand was up next.
I had expressed interest in attending the, what are these initials? NCFOA concert, conference as well. I think we'd all like to go to a concert right now. A conference as well, but that one is a little more expensive, so if it's something that the rest of the council feels is worthwhile, I would like to attend that one, but otherwise, that's fine. So I just wanted to put that out there.
That one, I believe, is more staff-oriented.
That is possible.
And there's
It
3
just had a lot
hours.
of very interesting looking information being given out, so that is fine.
Paul.
I just wanted to make mention, I appreciate, Neil's willingness to have others go, but looking over the specific police topics, I think several of these are areas that, as a department, we're doing well. And with our current staffing shortage, I just don't know that I can take the time away, especially around that month.
And I see that. I just, when I looked at the topics, I thought, well, police, maybe we should attend, but, and if the mayor is going to go, he could go to some of those, or I think there were 2 on emergency preparedness. So, anyhow, I just thought there was room for more people to go to some of these that Belinda and Jennifer probably can't make.
Thank you, Neil. Paul.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out where I could fit this into this discussion. But when we were down at the League of Minnesota Cities conference, under municipal clerks and finance officers, there was a discussion that when it came to auditing, that the way our city's set up, that we only need to be audited once every 5 years. And I think that I would like to, somehow get clarification on this, because if we're paying it for every year, not really getting a whole lot out of it, that's something that we should probably address. And I didn't know where else to bring it up in the meeting here tonight, so that's what I wanted to throw out there.
Okay, well, I think that's something Belinda and Tarek, can you guys circle back with Paul on that after our meeting?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So, Neil, what I'm hearing from you, and confirm me if I'm wrong, sir, is that for the League of Minnesota Cities Safety and Loss Control Workshop, you are making a motion to authorize Belinda, Jennifer, Tarek, Ron, Paul Wagner, and myself to attend.
Correct, and whoever can make it, go from there, but I highly do recommend it at $20 a piece. That's a bargain.
Okay.
It's just one day, but it looks like quite a bit of information is going to be available.
So
I'll make that motion.
That motion's been made. Do I have a second to that motion for the League of Minnesota Cities training? Paul.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Paul. Calling the question on that one. Neil.
Oh, am I still up?
Here, a vote.
Yeah, now it's time to vote.
Oh, aye.
Gene.
Aye.
I love Zoom.
Megan.
Aye.
Paul. Paul, you
Aye.
did it. Aye, thank you. And it's an aye from me. All right, that one does carry. Okay, then going up to the first one on there, since we took these out of order, the MWRA Annual Water and Wastewater Technical Conference. Going back to you, Neil. Neil, you're going to have to unmute and start over.
There we go.
Okay.
I had a question there before. It looks like the agenda, they're talking water and wastewater. And it looks like the topics run at the same time, so I thought maybe another person should be going with Ron. That whoever he recommends, it's $250 a person, but I don't think our sewer people get that much training that it would be out of order. So I'm recommending he takes a wastewater person with him.
Are you making that a motion?
That is my motion.
Okay. And then is that an authorization or a directive?
I would like Ron's consent to do that, but it would be a high recommendation.
Okay. I have a motion to highly recommend that Ron find someone to go with him. Do I have a second to that? Paul, I see your hand up.
Yes, I'll second that motion.
I have a second by Paul. All right. So that is a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Thielen, to approve the attendance of Ron Mergen, strongly encouraging the attendance of somebody else to the MWRA Annual Water and Wastewater Technical Conference. The only question I had, Ron, is there still enough time to get someone registered?
I will have to follow up on that, and if we can get somebody registered, we will do it ASAP, yes.
Looks like you have until the 18th. You've got until Friday.
Yep.
Okay. All right, any further discussion on that? All right, calling the question on that one. Neil?
Thanks, John. I vote aye.
Okay. Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And it is an aye for me. All right. Then, for the last one, the MCFOA conference, motion as we have it is Tarek, Belinda, and Jennifer to attend. Megan has expressed some interest. We want to authorize the attendance of anyone else. Like I said, this one is generally more geared towards city staff. Neil? Neil, you're on mute again.
Oh, come on. Here we go. What is the cost of this one again? I didn't write it on my notes.
$275.
Okay, for $275, and we got Terry, Jennifer, and Belinda going?
Right.
Yep.
That's probably enough for this one. There is a lot. I looked at the topics this afternoon, and Tuesday I recommend Terry go to the new city clerk orientation. A lot on elections, and I hope somebody will licensing food trucks. I know that's on our agenda yet tonight, but we might table it until this is over, but an awful lot of good meetings that with 3 people going, I think they can all be attended. With that, I'll recommend that we approve the 3 people that are going to the meeting.
Okay, so I have a motion by Hertzberg. I see Megan's hand up.
Yes, I'll second because it just sounds fun isn't enough to, spend that money on me. So the 3 that are mentioned would be good for me.
Okay. Gene?
Aye.
Okay, your hand was up. Did you have anything else to add?
No, I'm sorry, yep.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion then before I call the question? All right, so the motion is for the approval of the 3 listed on the action sheet. Motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Brick. Calling the question, Neil.
Aye.
This time for real, Gene.
Aye.
Thank you. Megan.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. That carries. Thanks, everyone. All right, now moving on to old business, page 63 of our agenda. Amending our compensation structure so that we're paid monthly rather than quarterly. Now, this has been posted. I don't think anyone's commented or raised any fuss, not changing the amounts. So we'd be looking for a motion to approve the ordinance. Gene?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Neil?
Second.
I have a motion by Slaney, seconded by Hertzberg, to approve ordinance number 33, third series. Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor? Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
It's an aye for me. Thank you. Moving on to old business B. This is the food truck ordinance. We're not voting on this tonight. It's just on here for informational. I think we can have a discussion with staff and Tarek if you guys want to look at whether or not you want to go to that training specifically related to food trucks. And if you do, we can talk about either putting this back on for another discussion and getting it posted after that, or how we want to handle it. But really, there's nothing else for us to do tonight. Neil? Gotta unmute, Neil.
There we are. I'm getting really bad. Getting tired. When and who will discuss rates?
I think that's something that would have to come back to council for a rate schedule.
After the ordinance is approved?
Yep. We have to amend our citywide rate schedule in order to get this.
Well, I just, I felt the training might be good on that, but at the end of the day, it looks to me like we have a pretty good ordinance in front of us. And with all due respect to the food trucks in town, and they're already setting up things to do this summer, I think we need to get this out and approved so that they can comply by it.
Dean, I saw your hand go up.
Yep, I just wanted to say that budget and finance should look at the fees with the whole fee schedule.
That makes sense. Jennifer?
When we approve the ordinance, it would be nice if we had the fees at the same time as well as the application approved. I don't mind Jean's idea. Not every fee goes through budget and finance, though. So, just a thought. But we could wait until one of us goes to the MCFOA to see what other cities are doing.
I was looking at the dates of the MCFOA. That's March 23rd. And if we're going to repost for a 10-day schedule at that point, I mean, all of these trucks are going to start being licensed, and now we're getting into mid to late April before this can take effect. And we're, hopefully by that time, the snow is melting and we're starting to think about actually using food trucks again. I'm more inclined with Neil to say, let's just move forward with this.
I do too. I agree.
Neil?
Yes, I think we need to move on this because let's say somebody doesn't have their state license or doesn't have the insurance that we're requiring. It gives them time to get everything in order so they can comply.
I think we should go ahead and get this posted and bring it forward for approval. If we need to amend it based on the training, we can do that. Jennifer?
So I will post it, and it will come back on the March 14th meeting. Are you willing to discuss some fees tonight so that those proposed fees can also be approved on the March 14th meeting?
Our March budget meeting was canceled, is that right?
We still have the March 1st budget and finance meeting on the schedule.
So we could get the fees to budget and finance and then have a recommendation brought back to council.
Absolutely.
I do not feel like, I mean, I reviewed this on policies and procedures, talked about it. I did not review it in detail before tonight because I looked at the other things on our agenda. I don't know that I'd be comfortable talking about fees tonight. Neil, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I do have a couple things I just want to talk about. Looking it over, H2. Oh, wait, I got the old one. Well, it's 10-172. License and permit types. We have 3 different ones. The middle one, it's in the event permit, where it says the event or festival for the duration of the festival, which may exceed the 7 days, which is the other permit. Do we need an end time on there? Because you could have an event that runs all summer, let's say, indirectly. I'm recommending we put a 30-day limit on an event. If it goes over 30 days, they need the annual license. Just a recommendation there. Then my other concern was on insurance. Number 2, it says automobile liability insurance with a limit of not less than $2 million. This insurance they'll cover liability arising out of any auto blah blah blah. Well, does that mean the tow vehicle for people that have the food trailer have to have that kind of coverage, or that's kind of a gray one? And those were the only two I have questions on. The distance one, which is basically a football field from any existing food or liquor or food business, probably is reasonable. Football field's a pretty good distance. But those other two I kind of have a concern with, maybe a limit on the second license, and what about the tow vehicle, or how's that? I understand if it's a motorized food van, but trailer being pulled by a tow vehicle was the question.
I think Bill and or Jennifer, would it be possible to add the language, but may not exceed the duration of the event or 30 days, whichever is less, to that paragraph 2, and then have it published with that language? Or do we need to send it back to policies to make an amendment?
No, I mean, we can make an amendment. If council says they want to amend that, we can change it however the council wishes it to read.
Neil, I understand you were suggesting that paragraph 2 may not exceed the duration of the event or 30 days, whichever is less. But I think that's a reasonable amendment. You're on mute again.
There I am. Yeah, I think if it runs more than 30 days, it's more of a super event, or most events aren't going to last more than 30 days. But I suppose you could have some type of thing where it ran half the summer, and that, I don't believe that's the intent of this. If it's over 30 days, I think you need to get the annual permit.
And Bill, do you know the answer to the insurance question? Would that cover any towed trailers?
I mean, what we're licensing is the food truck. I think everything in this ordinance applies to the food truck. I don't even know what Neil's trying to describe. I don't know. I mean, in my head, a food truck is a truck that is licensed to prepare and serve food, and that's the vehicle that we're talking about. If this is, some employee's vehicle that just follows the food truck to its location to help serve food, we're not worried about that vehicle. I don't know what Neil's describing.
And I think, going back, Neil, if you look at the definitions, it does define a food truck as including a fully contained trailer. So I think we'd probably be okay. But Bill, I think what we're talking about is, I know there's one around town, and I've seen other ones as well, where it's basically a food truck in a trailer that's towed by like a heavy-duty pickup truck.
Sure. Well, then, I guess the insurance is going to have to be on the vehicle then, because that's what's moving the food truck.
And that policy should cover the trailer and the contents therein.
Well, if I understand motor vehicle insurance, you don't buy automobile insurance for a trailer. You buy it for the motorized part of the unit. So you would have to have it for that towing vehicle.
Neil, I see your hand is up. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, that's when Bill was talking about, that's what, in our definition, you're exactly right, self-propelled vehicle or fully contained trailer. And that's what, I believe there's two in town that are trailers.
That could be, I don't know that.
And there's at least one in the township that's a truck, and there could be another, so we're probably looking at 4 units within the area.
So then, Neil, sorry, Bill.
I think I mentioned this to you in an email, and you maybe looked at it and thought that it was discussed sufficiently and wasn't important, but I just want to mention we have that exception for food trucks at the school, and I just, sometimes I hate to differentiate between one kind of the school as opposed to the hospital or some other business around town, but, I guess you're entitled to make that distinction if you want to, but I just was a little, to me, that seemed like a weird place to draw the line, that the school could have a food truck, and they didn't have to get a license, but the Ampi or the hospital or any other business out in industrial park can't.
Yeah, so that was discussed, the policies and procedures, what we would do, and it was sort of born out of the school has a standing food truck with whom they partner or they cycle through different ones. And I think we sort of assume that they're going to check and make sure that everything is licensed because they're serving it to the general public at their events. And we didn't want to interfere with the school's ability to provide food and refreshments for people. Neil, I don't know, you've got your hand up if you have anything to add to that thought.
Yes, chances are somebody isn't going to just have a food truck to do 4 football games. But I suppose it is possible one could come from another town or whatever. But most of these are going to buy one form of a license so they can move their product more than just the 5 football games.
I think we also discussed the fact that the school's a nonprofit, and any of the money raised from the refreshments they sell goes back to the school rather than a for-profit business. At least was my understanding. So that was also part of the justification there. Neil, what I heard from you, though, basically is a motion to amend Section 10-172, paragraph A2, to add the language or 30 days, whichever is less, at the end of that sentence, and then post the same and bring it back to the March meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, that sounds good to me.
Okay, and you're making that motion?
I am.
All right, do I have a second on that motion? Paul?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All right, so the motion by Neil, seconded by Thielen, is to amend Section 10-172, paragraph A2, to add the language following duration of the event or 30 days, whichever is less, and then have that published and brought back to our council meeting. And then in the meantime, Budget and Finance will talk fees and bring a recommendation as well. Any further discussion on this? Okay, I will call the question. Neil?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Megan? Megan, you were still muted, but I'm seeing a thumbs up.
Yeah. Aye.
All right. Aye. Paul?
Aye.
It's an aye for me. That does carry. Thanks, everyone. Andy, thank you for so patiently waiting.
You are welcome. Is it working?
It is.
Okay, excellent. You want me to start, or you want to address it, or what's your issue, or what do we want to cover?
Yeah, well, why don't we just start? It says you're going to give us an update on your SCBAs.
Okay.
And it goes into talk about thermal imaging cameras in our motion.
Yep. Okay. Currently, we have our SCBAs. We've actually just put them in service Wednesday, I believe it was. Oh, Friday, sorry. So they are in service. What this is all about is council approved $118,875.84. And after that was approved, I had, the fire department had accepted, or we made a decision to add 4 thermal imaging cameras to the packs. And my intention was that the relief was going to go ahead and pay for that.
And then at this point, Belinda received the bill. I signed off on the bill. We paid the bill, and then it's like, uh-oh, Andy, you didn't do this quite right. So we have an outstanding balance that the relief owes the city of $3,944 for 4 thermal imaging cameras that are built into our packs. So that's kind of how that went down. So I need approval to buy these cameras that we already have and to accept the donation of the 4 cameras that are attached to the SCBAs.
All right, thank you. Neil. Neil, I muted you because we were getting some feedback, so I went ahead and muted everyone.
Okay. Motion to authorize the purchase of 4 additional thermal imaging cameras to invoice to the Police Fire Rescue Relief Association for the difference of $3,944, and to accept the donation from the Paynesville Fire Relief Association of such.
Thank you. I have a motion by Hertzberg as stated on the action sheet. Paul.
I'll second that motion.
I have a second by Paul. Any further discussion on that? Okay, calling the question. Neil?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Denied from me. Thanks, everyone. Andy, going on to the truck repair. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We have approval now from insurance company we actually have funds. Oh, where are they? They were sent to us. Linda, you might have to correct me. I believe
Andy,
it was
can I interrupt you for just a second?
Sure.
The council's never received a report on what actually happened. I think we've all probably heard it secondhand, but you just give us the quick Reader's Digest version of why we're even talking about this?
For sure. I can't remember the date exactly, but I believe it was the end of November, 1st of December at some point. We had a fire out of town, on the edge of town here, and on that day we had sent everybody back, or some people back, to start washing hose. In that procedure, how they were doing it, they had set up one of our trucks in the truck bay to engage the pump and start washing hose with the water in the truck. In doing so, the truck malfunctioned, and it went from a pump operation and shifted back into the transmission. And the transmission at that point had been, or the idle had been turned up on the truck to get more water flow. And the truck, when it dropped into the drive position of the vehicle or whatever, it took off and it rear-ended. This is truck number 11, so it's our backup pumper. It took off out of the hall and ran into our Unit 9 truck, which is our grass rig, and pushed it out of the fire hall through the garage door and stopped by the fence at the playground. And at that point, it had done damage to Unit 9 and Unit 11. And then we started the whole proceedings and how to figure out how to get it all fixed. So that's kind of where we're at. Does that help, Sean?
It does. Thank you. So you're looking for a motion to approve the repair of the fire trucks with the insurance proceeds herein. I'm just curious, before we make that motion, has the insurance approved the garage door and the fence? Or are we still waiting on that?
Nope, both have been approved.
Okay, great. Neil, I see your hand is up.
That was exactly my question, garage door and fence. That's approved, good. Did we have a deductible at all?
I believe it was $1,000.
$1,000 for the event.
Okay, thank you. Neil, did that answer your question?
Yes, and that's a very reasonable deductible for the $300,000 trucks.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Megan.
I just wanted to add, I believe it was December 15th that this occurred. And then in my research afterwards, well, it's not like an everyday occurrence. This is certainly something that happens somewhat often, so I wouldn't anticipate that there was any issues with insurance. So.
Thank you. Neil.
Okay, my only other question, and this would be to Andy, like OSHA always asks, how can this accident be prevented?
The one thing... Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, I wasn't quite done. And I'm going to date myself, but I was in parts working for Hoysets from 80 till, or actually I started in the 70s. But I believe it was a 69 or 79 Crown Vics would jump from what people thought they had it in park, and it wasn't quite all the way in park, and they'd leave the car run to go get the mail, and they came out, and here's the car going around in circles right downtown. This happened in Paynesville. And it happened to quite a few cars. I think Ford had quite a lawsuit, and they came back with some type of better selector so this wouldn't happen. And I guess I'm asking if there's a better selector for the tranny so this won't happen. Or like I said, OSHA always said, how can this accident be prevented?
I guess I don't know exactly how we could make changes to the truck. I believe it's a 1994, so it's been in service a long time. Some of the immediate changes I implemented or that we've started doing as a department is we're doing wheel shocks whenever a truck is in operation, and that should have been already going on. This kind of brought it to light. So it will be used at all times, and we're just in the process of reminding ourselves and working through that. The second thing that instantly went into effect was we will never operate a truck inside the vehicle, inside a building to pump water. Those two things were implemented right away. To fixing the vehicle, our suspicion is, and we'll find this out when we start doing work to the truck, or basically the repairs of the truck, is we think that the truck is operating by air to engage that pump, and we have to do a little further research when we start working on it. And the air was low on that truck because we do not have air lines hooked up to that truck bay. So our next process here in the building is we want to put new air lines and add an air line to that truck bay so it will always have a full charge of air when the truck is parked. All the other vehicles that are air operated have that connection and are already up to par. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Okay, Neil.
Muted.
Does that truck have air brakes, or what type of emergency?
It does have air brakes, and it drove right through the air brakes. They were engaged the entire time.
Yeah, because normally air brakes will set when you're low on air.
Yep, they were set. The brakes were on, and it drove. When it dropped into drive, the engine had already been throttled up to pump water, and it drove right through the brakes.
Which normally wouldn't happen if you didn't have the increased throttle.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Andy, there was somebody who stepped up and tried to get that stopped. And I know we've talked about it, but I just want to confirm with you, is he doing okay?
He, actually, that first week, he almost turned in his resignation. He put a lot of his blame on himself just because he was the one that was walking by the truck or started the truck. The department reached out to him as a bunch of individuals, and it's just reassured him that bad things happen and it's not always somebody's fault. We've encouraged him, and we've been able to maintain or retain a firefighter after that incident, but he was all but signing his name on a resignation that week, and we're thankful to keep him around. So.
Well, came to visit you guys that night. I saw and heard what happened, and I agree that that was not his fault or anyone else's. So if you wouldn't mind passing along my sentiments that I'm glad he's still around, and certainly lay no blame on him. And I'm glad he's okay. Neil?
My last question, driving by and looking at the fence, it looks like the tree had quite a bit of damage too. Is that a city or school tree?
I guess I wouldn't even know.
Ron could probably answer that.
Yes, that being on the backside the fence on the school side, that would be a school tree.
And are they okay that it's scarred, or it's an old enough tree, it should reheal, or a little black paint on the scarring, or some grease, or do something maybe?
I have not had any discussions with about the tree, and the school has not mentioned it to me at all. I could reach out to them if you need me to or would like me to, but it didn't seem to be a major concern at this time.
Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, this is just a comment for Andy that being able to reach out to the individual after the unfortunate incident that happened, that just shows that that's a sign of a good leader. And I want to commend you on doing that. Sometimes this just needs to be set down, realize that, hey, I guess this is going to be okay. So, good job. Just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
Jennifer, we talked a little bit earlier about adding things to the police and fire agenda. Can we just add an update to that next meeting as well? Andy, I don't think we've talked about this incident with that committee, have we?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, let's just make them aware of it. And then with that, can I get a motion to approve the repair to trucks 9 and 11 as stated on the action sheet? Oh, and Jennifer, I see you unmuted. I don't know if you were trying to respond to what I said.
Yep, I will add it.
Thank you very much. Paul, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to repair fire truck number 9 and number 11 by Hyman and Cronus Motors, respectively.
Okay, thank you. Neil?
And I'll second that motion, and I just want to say, Andy, you're keeping good firemen, and you got a good department. We just too bad this happened, and nobody got hurt seriously. We're very fortunate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? Okay. Call the question. Neil?
Aye.
I should restate the question, which is to repair the fire trucks 9 and 11 as stated on the action sheet. Neil's voted aye. Jean?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
An aye for me. Thank you. Okay, moving on then to letter E, which is the substance use policy. Not much there's nothing for us to vote on here, just making us aware. It's come up a few times in recent months on policies and things that are in place over at the fire department, and these things were dug up so that we are aware of what's going on. Bill, it says you're going to give a report. Anything more that we need to know about that? Otherwise, everyone should read through it and make themselves at least on a broad level familiar with it.
Yeah, I was just asked if there was a substance abuse policy, and I find that there is, and it's there for your information. If anybody has any issues with it, we should talk about it. But it seems like it's a good strict policy, and my only thing I mentioned this when Tar called. I think the fire department has it in their constitution and bylaws, and it's just good if to make sure that the firemen review those periodically and acknowledge that they're aware of them. I think is a good thing, a good procedural thing to do, but it's a good policy, I think.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, moving on then to letter F, the lodging tax. Tard, can you give us a report on this agreement?
Yeah, I worked with Bill Spooner and kind of coming up with a draft of what we want the lodging tax agreement to be. And the whole reason is, as you are aware now, beginning January 1st this year, we implemented a lodging tax with the township to go to the Chamber of Commerce, which they will use for marketing purposes to market Paynesville and the Paynesville area. After that, it was advised, and Bill recommended that we come to an agreement on specifically how we want these funds used, because it was kind of vague, or it wasn't really stipulated in detail what we would want the money to be used for. So the purpose of drafting the agreement, as you read, is for us to just be clear on what we want it to be used for, and even if you read the language the way it is now, it's still, it's kind of, I don't want to say generic, but it's still fairly broad in how it can be used, but it is directed towards any type of marketing effort for Paynesville. So the purpose of submitting the draft as is now is for to get any comment or feedback on it. And I don't know, Bill, if you want to add any more to it, but that's kind of a quick summary.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Reading through this, it said something about 95% of this fee will go to the chamber. So I'm wondering if the other 5% is to the city for handling the funds and administration. Because 5% ain't any too much for the work that'll be involved. But
5% is the amount, and that's what's authorized by state statute. That's the maximum that you can take. So
okay, and that for administration.
correct.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Otherwise, we'd be looking for our motion to approve the agreement. Neil? Oh, you muted yourself instead of unmuting.
Oh.
It's all good. We're almost done.
Oh, man. I was going to make the motion, and I got talking. Motion to approve local tourism bureau agreement between the city of Paynesville and the Paynesville Area Chamber of Commerce.
All right, I have a motion by Hertzberg. Gene?
Second.
I have a second by Soini. Any further discussion on this one? Megan, I see your hand is now down. Okay. All right, so calling the question to approve. Motion by Hertzberg, second by Soini. Motion to approve the local tourism bureau agreement. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
It's an aye for me. That does carry. Thank you, everyone. All right. Bill Ludwig, liquor store clerk.
Yes, 4 weeks ago, Tark and I interviewed 4 candidates. We temporarily hired 3 of them, Jenny Johnson, Daniel Adams, and Shay Hennon. All have started and are doing very well. I'd like to ask for a motion to make it official that these folks be part of our liquor store staff.
Okay. No second regrets after a period of appointment?
Nobody said a word to me. So.
All right. Well, then, if there's no discussion, we'd be looking for a motion as on the action sheet. Neil?
I'll make the motion to hire Jenny Johnson, Daniel Adams, and Shay Hennon at grade 1, step 1, $14.78 an hour per the union wage scale.
Okay, I have a motion by Hertzberg. Paul Phelan.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Thielen to hire Jenny Johnson, Dan Adams, Shay Hennon at grade 1, step 1 per the wage scale. Any further discussion on that? Okay, calling the question. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan? Thielen?
Abstain from that.
Paul? Aye. And it's an aye from me. That is a 4-0. Megan has abstained from that. All right. Council retreat. Mark?
Yeah, I called a couple locations to check on availability. They all have space available. When I call the area center, I mean, everybody's asking me for dates. Since we didn't pinpoint a date, it'll kind of be hard to get a yes or no, but for the most part, they're all available. Area center is available and ready to host us. They won't charge us a fee. However, they don't have any food that'll have to be catered. The inn, Paynesville Inn, they also have room available. They will charge a nominal fee for the room, which will include coffee, tea, and some miscellaneous items. And I think that was roughly $50, and it depends on what else you want with it. And then I was supposed to call another resort, the Bugby Resort, but I haven't yet. So I'm kind of waiting for us to pinpoint a date, and then I can get some more or solid figures to what it will cost and what we would have in there.
I think if the Green Roof Area Center is willing to host us at no cost, then we should take them up on that offer and just throw it on a random date towards the end of April. Daniel, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I agree. If we can get the senior center for free, and our only expense will be dinner and cater that in, I'm fine with that. Because I don't believe we budgeted for a retreat this year.
No.
In the future, maybe that's something we should budget and do a 2-day event out of town, whatever. Wouldn't be a bad idea down the road.
Okay, Megan?
I don't have my notes in front of me, but at the conference that we all attended, they discussed having retreats and something about keeping them within the city confines. I don't know, Tarek and Paul were with me at the newly elected officials one, so they might have more input, but I thought that there was something regarding that we learned this past weekend.
Yeah, it was keeping it within the city limits, because I think there was a scenario given where a city tried to host something just outside the city limits, and they said, no, that's not possible. But
that would not help Bugby then. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, in that scenario, yes.
Thank you. Gene?
I was just going to say, since we donate money to the senior center, that's fine. But we also, just for an option, we could also use the Historical Society. If we want to.
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. Neil?
Well, our last retreat was a good 5-6 years ago, and it was at Cronus Ministries, but it was everybody went home at night. It was just 2 days, and but they have food at the time, and it was. I'm not saying we need to go to Spicer or Wilmer, but Bugby's would be an option, I would think, if Cronus Ministries worked. Why, I don't know why Bugby's wouldn't.
I think the question that Megan was talking about, or the discussion we had at the LMC event, is it needs to be accessible for any members of the public to attend. And being out of town, they consider that not to be accessible to the public, even though it's just right outside of town. So I think we'll probably have to get some, further advice on that if we can host it at either, like you said, Cronus Ministries or Bugby.
I think that and I'm not sure what the intent is with this retreat. But if you're going to talk about city business, you need to hold it within the city limits, and it needs to be accessible to the public. I think the retreat that Neil's talking about, that was 5 or 8 years ago or whatever, was a retreat where there was somebody there, and they were doing like
goal setting.
Yeah, it wasn't city business. We weren't discussing any current business. It was talking about kind of team building, goal setting sort of activities, but it was being that there was somebody that was facilitating the process other than the council. That's a little bit different animal than what I think you're talking about doing. I'm not sure though, because I guess the discussion when I was last at a meeting where this was brought up was that it was sort of in the nature of a working session.
Correct.
And if it is, then it needs to be within the city limits.
Yes, that was my understanding. It'll be in a format of a working session.
Well, I think maybe let's pick a date towards mid to late April. Just coordinate with the Green Roof Area Center on what works for them. And as far as food goes, maybe we put it on a day where they're serving something tolerable for the senior luncheon, and maybe we can help serve and get a discount on that.
I was told that we cannot participate in that.
Wow.
Just a room, and we have to bring our own food.
Oh, I guess Neil will go over and grab lunch then. He can say hi to my grandpa for me. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, a clarification, anybody can eat there, but I believe you have to be over 50. So that eliminates you youngsters. You got to fill out a form on your income and all this kind of stuff, but anybody over 50, it is open for, I believe. 50 is the age.
I thought I'd be lying to make myself older to get a better meal.
I feel old.
All right. Well, I think it makes sense to hold it at the Green Roof Area Center. If we can't get a date there, I like Gene's idea of doing it at the Historical Society. But let's just throw something together, Tarek, and tell us where to be and when.
Okay.
All right. Then we need to move on to the Public Works surplus. We have a number of things on here. We just need to approve the surplus bids so that that property can be distributed, or that which has been distributed can be formalized. Neil.
Looking at this, maybe that was for just information. The Surrey bikes, toolboxes, stuff in July, those were all approved and paid for. They're gone, correct?
They're paid for and they're gone, but my understanding is it was never formally approved.
Oh, so we need to approve the whole thing, but and the three items that we're approving the bids on would be the top.
We're technically approving the bids on everything.
Everything, okay.
But we don't really have much choice with some of the other stuff.
Okay, and with that, I'll make the motion to accept the surplus property bids.
I have a motion by Hertzberg to accept the surplus property bids. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Gene. All right, any further discussion? All right, calling the question. Neil?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Aye for me, that does carry. Thank you. On to the last item on our agenda, COVID-19 updates. Tarek?
Yes, as you've been aware, I have been keeping in touch with Centricare on their update for COVID numbers, and I'm just trying here. I want to share my screen. Here we go. Can you make me the host again, Sean?
Done.
There we go. All right, so I get the weekly numbers from Centricare, and I spoke with them today. Their numbers, positivity rate is 16% as of past weekend. However, I went to the state of Minnesota site, and state of Minnesota, if you can see on the top corner here, has a positivity rate of 8%. That's as of the 10th of February. And then if we further look at Stearns County, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
All right, if we look at Stearns County coming up here, Stearns County right now is at 9.7%. So we have Centricare at 16, State of Minnesota at 8, and Stearns County at 9.7.
I think our motion was technically based on the Centricare positivity rate.
That's 12%, yes.
Yep. And I've been looking at some of the numbers myself. There's a data analyst with NPR who studies the numbers from the Department of Health every day, and his analysis puts us probably statewide under 5%. It's just that the delay in data reporting takes a while. I guess I'm curious, Tarek, how's it been working? Has there been pushback on the mask wearing? Is everybody pretty compliant?
From the people coming into City Hall, I mean, I noticed that when we first put up the mask sign at City Hall, maybe 80 to 90% of people were coming in either already masked or wearing a mask. But the past week or two, I would say it's becoming less and less. And right now, and Belinda corrects me, or Jennifer, I think not even 1/3 are wearing a mask.
Has there been a lot of pushback from employees on wearing it? Are there any issues with that?
Yeah, there has been some. And I think everybody would like to see us do away with the mask, especially since the Minnesota rates have come down quite a bit, and Stearns County is already well below the 12%.
The reason I ask is I was in City Hall the other day, and I popped into a department and saw 6 people all standing within arm's reach of each other. No one was wearing a mask. So I was quite a bit disappointed that we made this an issue, and this a policy, and an entire department was not obeying it. That was kind of upsetting from a leadership perspective. Neil?
Yes, I believe Duluth, Rochester, quite a few major cities that implemented this have backed away from it. And do we need to amend our motion that said 12? Or are we in compliance with that we can go ahead and demask?
I think our motion was we'd follow the Centricare guidelines, so if we wanted to amend that, we'd have to amend the motion. My personal opinion is it makes sense to amend that and get rid of it, because shortly after we made our motion, Centricare stopped testing asymptomatic patients. So that means that the Centricare positivity rate is going to be artificially high until they start testing the general public again.
Then there's another one as well. At least I was under the impression that we will be getting Centricare Paynesville numbers and not Centricare-wide numbers. And we were getting Centricare-wide numbers, they didn't have a breakdown just for Paynesville.
Okay. Gene, I saw your hand up, and then you pulled it back down. Anything to add?
I was just going to comment that, at church we already dropped it there too, having meals again.
Yep. Okay, Megan?
Yeah, I had the same, what both you and Tarek said. I feel that when that happened, when Centricare began not testing asymptomatic people, I think that, we were going to see a rise, especially if we were getting the numbers for all of Centricare. If, you test 5 ill people in St. Cloud and they're all sick and they all, it's 100% positivity rate, but it doesn't affect us. So I feel like we should probably amend the motion, and if we do decide at any point that we need to go back to it, we might need to use a different measure to do so.
Neil?
Yes, I would like to amend the motion to be within the current 5 or 9%, whatever it was, and to give you a separate motion to just go back to normal.
I'm just considering your motion one to rescind the masking policy at this time.
There you go. That's fine.
Okay. We have a motion by Hertzberg to rescind the mask policy. Is there a second? Paul?
Well,
second the motion.
Okay. So I have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Thielen, to rescind the mask policy, effective immediately. Employees and city properties would not be required, or employees and individuals would not be required to mask. Calling the question. Neil?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Megan?
I will abstain as it affects my personal colleagues.
Okay. Paul? Paul, you muted yourself just before voting.
Aye.
Okay. And it is an aye for me, so that does carry 4-0 with one abstention. We should talk about going back to in-person meetings. I think given the rates, it makes sense for us to go back to in-person meetings here. But I think it would also be worthwhile for us to investigate what we might need to do if somebody attending a meeting needs to be remote. So I think before we fully revoke the remote meeting, we should try and figure out if there's a way to sort of establish a hybrid protocol and have that in place before our next council meeting, so that our next committee meeting and our next council meeting can be in person, but if somebody's feeling sick or whatever it is, that they can still remote in and have access.
Yeah, I would agree with the hybrid model.
Paul? You're muted, sir.
Can you hear me okay?
Now we can.
Okay. Yeah, I have a completely different reason for this. I'd like to go hybrid because I'm not getting around very well since I had my knee replaced last week. And if I could go Zoom while this thing's still healing, I would appreciate that, if possible.
I also think we didn't have anybody here tonight, but the first meeting we did remotely, we had a few observers from the public in the meeting with us. So if this can increase public access, it might be worthwhile as well. Neil?
Okay. Yeah, I think we need to get back to in-person meetings at the council. But like Paul, if you have a medical, or even I remember Alicia LeBeau was on vacation and participated in a meeting from Lake Arizona on Zoom. So I think we already have established a protocol that if you're away or injured, you can be on Zoom.
And I agree, there are things in there where you can do it. It's just under the typical open meeting law, we generally have to provide notice that somebody's going to be remote and where they're going to be, things like that. I think from my understanding with the league, there are exceptions with the health emergency where maybe we can do it without all of that formality, at least for the short term.
I'd have to look at the exception for the health thing, but generally you have to be in a public place to attend remotely.
Anything else on COVID that we should discuss? Okay. Then with that, we just have our informational at the end, which includes the garbage rates from West Central, the notice from XL regarding their transmission line. Again, CenterPoint's raising their rates, and I'm going to again yell at the state of Texas for not knowing how to run an electrical grid. And then we have our January police reports. So thank you, everyone, for the meeting. Let's hope that this is, if not our last Zoom, certainly one of the last ones. And I hope to see you all again in 2 weeks.